everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Dogs. Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. Glad to be back. Obviously, my voice is getting stronger. If you heard me Wednesday on some of the shows, it was still Kermit the Frog-like or worse. So we had to miss Monday's show, and we missed a lot of stuff, which we'll try to catch up on a little bit today as we talk about the news of the day as well. I welcome in my co-host, Boxing Hall of Fame writer, former president, right, of the Boxing Writers Hall of Fame. Oh, jeez.
Association of America, but Keith, my intro is so boring. You may as well have given the NBA scores from last week. Started off with that.
My brain is still addled. Boxing.
Just say my co-host Jack Hirsch. I don't need the intros by now. If I haven't forged enough of a reputation on this show, Keith, by now, it ain't ever going to happen.
I have to explain to people why you're making all the money you're making. That's why I have to give you this shining intro. Anyway.
Well, my guaranteed contract keeps me working on the show.
Jack Hirsch is with us. We welcome everybody on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You see some of our favorite groups at the bottom, but we thank all the groups, the dozens and dozens that let me share our content every week. Lots to talk about since we've been gone. Jack, coaching news. The Giants, in my opinion, hit a home run. I said that he was meeting with the Giants. John Harbaugh, we're talking about, obviously. I said on the Wednesday Unprofessional Professional Sports Show, the Giants were interviewing him Wednesday as we were speaking. And I said, if they let him out of the building without a contract, they're nuts. And apparently they didn't. Although no contract seems to have been signed. I keep seeing the word imminent all the time. But I think this is a done deal. Home run? I think it's a home run for the Giants.
He has the best coaching resume of anyone available, with the possible exception of Mike Tomlin, who's not a coaching candidate for the time being, at least. And the feeling is that Mike Tomlin's not going to coach next year. But John Harbaugh was looking to get back into the mix immediately, and the Giants knew he'd have his choice of a few teams. What a great position that John Harbaugh was in when the Ravens decided they were going to move on from him. I mean, John Harbaugh didn't have to be crushed. It opened up a whole new world. I mean, you think of the teams that would have interviewed him, the Atlanta Falcons, a good chance he could have gone there, a team that has a certain amount of upside, the Tennessee Titans, young quarterback Cam Ward, the Cleveland Browns. That job's always a little intriguing. The Miami Dolphins, if you like the warm weather over there. The Las Vegas Raiders, a bit dysfunctional, but there's some talent over there as well. And, I mean, the jobs were there. It was just a question of which one he was going to take. He was going to get more than one job offer. He was going to interview for all of them. But chances are he was going to have about, 3 of them or so to choose from when the smoke cleared and the interviewing process was done, and he got ahead of the curve. I mean, he didn't bother to go on the other interviews. He liked what he saw with the Giants. They jumped on it first with him. All the pieces in place. He has a young quarterback in Jackson Dart, a potentially elite defense. A good situation for John Harbaugh. Good situation for the Giant organization. The question is how much control is he going to have? How much did he demand?
I'm sure he demanded. Well, he had a list of demands that went out before you had an interview. Basically, $20 million a year, which he got very close to. I think it's close to $100 million reported it for 5 years. And he wanted some, player personnel control, which he's probably earned at this point, and wants to control his own fate, which he didn't necessarily have a lot of in Baltimore. It doesn't seem. The thing is, are the pieces all in place? He's got a quarterback, it would appear. Rumors are Todd Monken is coming with him. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing necessarily. The Baltimore offense didn't seem terribly happy with Todd Monken, and a lot of people thought he'd take the fall, then not Harbaugh in Baltimore and some of the other coaches. But I think there is a lot of talent on this Giant team, but it still might need another receiver. Offensive line, the defense still has some holes. But John Harbaugh, this feels like, you know what this feels like? Tom Coughlin coming to the Giants. Does it feel that way to you at all?
It does feel that way, and that's a very fair comparison. The jury's still out on Jackson Dart to an extent. I mean, they're moving forward with him as the franchise quarterback. Is he going to be injury prone or not? You know, because Jackson Dart doesn't know sometimes when to hit the deck, keep out of trouble, trying to get the extra yards, and he still has to prove himself, Jackson Dart. Just showing periodic potential isn't enough in the long term, but they're going to give Jackson Dart a full chance to develop. And his style of game is somewhat along the lines of Lamar Jackson as well. And we saw this, you know, the long-term success Harbaugh had with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, even though last year it wasn't a good situation. You know, the elephant in the room to me is still Joe Shine. I mean, John Harbaugh can't be in a situation where he's working on the Joe Shine. I mean, this sounds really bad to say, but till this moment, until it changes, Joe Shine has been a proven loser with the Giants until this moment.
Yeah.
And he's as responsible as anyone else for how poorly the Giants have performed since he's taken over as GM. And the culture's got to change. And it's got to be that Joe Shine is supporting John Harbaugh. In other words, what John Harbaugh wants, Joe Shine's got to go out to get. I don't mean Joe Shine necessarily has to give up power in the draft. But if John Harbaugh wants certain positions to be filled up, for example, a couple of draft picks, Joe Shine could want Reuben Bain, the great pass rusher there from Miami, but John Harbaugh could want Arvo Reese, the linebacker / safety from Ohio State. You give in to John Harbaugh. That's what I mean by John Harbaugh has to be given that certain amount of say.
That kind of points to Joe Shine works for John Harbaugh. And I don't doubt that may be the case. It may not say that on an organizational.
No, they work together. No, it's like, you know what it is? If it's a relationship and respect, where they can sit down and convince one another what would be best, and they each have an open mind, that's the way it should go. Joe Shine has to be in charge of the draft at the end of the day as the GM, but he can't be fighting with John Harbaugh doing exact opposite. Look, your favorite coach, Bill Parcells, would always be fighting with the GMs. I mean, he did it with the Giants when they drafted Rodney Hampton, running back, Georgia, great pick.
Yeah.
He wanted a linebacker, Darian O'Connor, good player, decent player, but Hampton was the better pick. Parcells has proven to be wrong. Parcells didn't want Terry Glenn with the Patriots. He felt it was a bad pick. It turned out to be an outstanding pick for the Patriots. So, but there's got to be the level of respect where the GM and coach work together.
Just Parcells, I'll say this every time. He couldn't really make up his mind between Rick Meyer and Drew Bledsoe. So that tells you a little bit about his acumen picking.
Well, in all fairness, Bill Walsh was hiring Rick Meyer as well, and no one was a better quarterback guru
than
Bill Walsh. He didn't pick him, correct.
Neither one of them picked him in the end. Joe Shine, though, listen. The Giants may not win next year. Everybody's like, oh, the Giants not winning the NFC East. I don't think that's any guarantee. Joe Shine still got some heat on him because if this becomes ever, you know, a tug of war between Harbaugh and Shine, Shine's going to lose.
Shine's going to go. They're committed to Harbaugh. If the two of them butt heads and are really fighting, Joe Shine will go. I couldn't imagine the Giants firing Harbaugh with all the time he has on his contract, number one, to pay him. Number two, it's shocking that Shine still has a job based on how he performs. So listen, he didn't draft that poorly last year. He actually, you could argue, drafted well last year, but something in the whole makeup of the team. And I don't know how he survived the Saquon Barkley fiasco. And it was more than Saquon Barkley, like we've said, being a running back. He was a leader. He was a legacy player. You want a guy like him in the locker room. You want him as a lifetime Giant representing the team. And you know who could turn out to be the ultimate villain if the Giants don't win? John Mara at the end. I mean, let's be honest. It's a honeymoon period that John Harbaugh is going to have. But if the Giants are 5-12 next year, honeymoon's off. It's off. They don't have to make the playoffs. They've got to show improvement. If they're 7-10, 8-9, and they're showing an upswing, a little bit of an uptick,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
the Giant fans are still going to be patient for the following year. But if the Giants, floundering the way they did this year, I don't think there's going to be much patience, and especially if the offense isn't doing anything.
Yeah, you mentioned the whole Saquon Barkley thing, and the way that all played out, really choosing Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley is what it came down to. And it's funny how history could be so much different, because I'll give Joe Schein this credit for this. He tried desperately to trade up to number 2 to get Drake May. If they've gotten Drake May, they keep Saquon Barkley, and maybe everybody still got their jobs. It's very interesting how thin the line of success can be in the NFL. It would be a lot.
And it makes you think with trading up, how much you're willing to give. It's a tremendous gamble, but if you truly feel you have your franchise quarterback, you give. I mean, if I could get John Elway, don't I give 4 number 1 draft picks without even considering? I'll give him 4 years in a row in number 1s. I'll give him 5 years in a row in number 1s if I could John Elway. But the problem is, if the QB coming out of college doesn't turn out to be what you thought he would be, it kind of hampers the team. I mean, we thought that way with Trevor Lawrence, generational quarterback. He's been okay. Trevor Lawrence has been okay. Trevor Lawrence might be a Hall of Famer when his career's done. It's possible. He's going to be with the Jags for years, but he's not in the John Elway, Peyton Manning mold.
No. You wouldn't give up 4 picks for Elway now. He's 64 years old. I don't think.
Well, you know what I'm saying. Knowing the way he turned out.
Only 2.
Yeah.
Rick put this up earlier, and I brought this up. We're talking about the talent in the room. I like Wan'Dale Robinson. I know we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. You said somebody's got to get the catches. Wan'Dale Robinson, no matter how you want to look at it, did step forward this year when a lot of guys wouldn't have. And I think the Giants have a solid possible 2. Maybe he's a 3. Maybe he's not your number 2 guy, but he had a really good year.
Someone's got to get the catches. I hold to that. That's on any team.
You still got to get open. You still got to make the catches.
Look at the NBA box scores. Someone's got to get the points for a team, but then you put him in another situation, and he's not nearly as good.
Well,
I mean, Malik Neighbors is a true number 1, and the Giants, they could use another top of the line receiver.
I think they could.
And that could come out of the draft. You put him opposite Malik Neighbors, and now you have a couple of threats. There's so many ways the Giants could go. Could go defense as well. Listen, the Giant defense is pretty good. They've got the pieces there, but you can never have too much defense. I hope they don't draft on the offensive line, though, because history shows us it just doesn't quite work out for the Giants.
Not for the Giants, it does.
Another Evan Neal. Yeah.
Listen, Harbaugh's like a CEO type coach, and his staff is going to be very important, obviously, because he doesn't sit there and call plays on offense or defense. Special teams actually was his forte. Actually, special team coaches have done really well as head coaches in the NFL. I don't know why more guys don't hire those type of guys. Actually,
they do better as head coaches sometimes than they do as special team coaches. And look, the Raiders still haven't recovered from letting go Rick Bisaccia, special teams coach who then went to the Packers.
I'm surprised his name will never come up again. It appears he came up for the Jaguars, I think, when they hired the last time, or maybe a time before. But it hasn't come up in conversation at all. Bisaccia.
So the one name that's hardly come up. You look at all the teams and the people that they're interviewing, the fits and so on. It's Brian Flores. Talk about a candidate who damaged himself. I mean, who just went off the rails. He brought it on to himself, Brian Flores, all this. I mean, who would want to hire someone who might sue you, who goes after the owner and then accuses you of being a racist? I know I've covered this in the past. I've talked about it, but it's a shame because Brian Flores would absolutely be on my short list of a head coach to hire if I was an owner. And with the 7 head coaching jobs remaining, you're not going to tell me he's not one of the best 7 candidates.
He is, and the lawsuit, goes against him. That's his problem. His how are you going to fire Brian Flores? It's going to be very hard when he's already suing the league for getting fired the last time.
I mean, a guy who's suing the league, going after other owners, and is the evidence there? The only thing I support him on is the interview he had with the Denver Broncos with John Elway was half asleep. I believe Brian Flores, but that was the NFL's affirmative action rule, where he had to get hired. They wasted Brian Flores' time in the league with that rule.
Well, this is a little segue for me to go into the Mike Tomlin thing. The one place Brian Flores could go and coach and get fired is probably the Steelers because they're the originators of the Rooney Rule in the first place, and they're probably the only guys who wouldn't get
he would be you want to know something? Brian Flores, I think, would be an excellent candidate for Pittsburgh because, what was it, 2-3 years ago, Mike Tomlin gave him an opportunity to go to Pittsburgh and be an assistant there.
Yep.
And he was there for a year. And I don't know how many players are still there who interacted with him. I'm sure players like TJ Watt did. If they had a good relationship with him, that could be a good fit in Pittsburgh because the Steelers aren't the type who are going to look to move on and fire a coach in a couple of years anyway, not based on their history. And he's a great defensive mind, Brian Flores.
They're going to look for a fairly young guy. I got 3 guys. I got Flores in mind. Anthony Weaver, I like a lot. I think he'll be in play for this job. And Shula, I can't remember.
Chris Shula.
Shula, right. Shula,
Chris Shula wouldn't that be a great fit from the Miami Dolphins, Don Shula's grandson?
Would you want to? I mean, I get it, but it
would be great. It's a great storyline. It really is.
But you got to look up your grandfather the whole time you're there.
Listen, these assistants, these coordinators who are getting their first head coaching job, we have no idea how successful they could be as a head coach. More often than not, they're not successful. Sometimes you hit a home run. You get a Mike McDonald, you hit a home run. But in other cases, you don't. Look, Robert Salah, if he didn't have the Jet job, he would maybe be the hottest candidate out there because he had the Jet job and they didn't do too well, even though they did actually a little better with Salah than without him after he left. He's not that hot a coaching candidate, but he's still in the mix because people see what he did with the 49ers and what he did with Bryce Huff. Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator of the Eagles, couldn't do a thing with Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff was taken off the active roster for the Super Bowl. But with the 49ers, Bryce Huff has a reemergence the way he did with the Jets when he was under Salah. That tells you a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think Salah, and I've heard his name a few spots, but I haven't heard a lot of him in this of this cycle. Speaking of this cycle, with the Harbaugh domino gone, I would expect jobs to start to get filled. I think of the coaches that got fired, because there's a question up here from Brian about Mike McDaniel. I don't see Mike McDaniel getting a job again, but I do see Kevin Stefanski getting a job right away.
I want to ask you a question.
Yep.
Okay, this is interesting. And don't just blow it off. Let's say it's hypothetical. If Bill Belichick last year didn't go to North Carolina when he couldn't get an NFL head coaching job, decided to lay low, be in the broadcast booth for a year, reset kind of the way Sean Payton did, would he be maybe the hottest head coaching candidate out there?
Hottest, I'm not sure, but he would be a leading candidate. But everything's gone down, obviously, has probably removed him from ever coaching in NFL.
Well, let me ask you another thing. Is it the job he's done at North Carolina? Is it the Jordan Hudson factor?
All of it. I think all of it. Yeah. Well, Jordan Hudson that coming along with you is going to be a detriment for him.
And you know what? How things come back to bite you. If he had a great relationship with Tom Brady, really super one, and kept in touch after, they had parted, and let's say they parted on Brady's terms, not Belichick's. Can you imagine Brady talking to Mark Davis, the Raider owner? You got to bring Bill Belichick over here. Proven winner, I know.
Well, he would know for sure.
But he's not doing it. Apparently, he's not doing it.
With revisionist history as well, the Falcons, Fontenot gets fired as the GM along with obviously the head coach.
Raheem Morris. Yeah.
Raheem Morris, right, gets fired as well. But Fontenot didn't want to bring Belichick in when Blank did because he was worried about losing his power and losing his job, and here he is out of a job.
Arthur Blank could still bring Belichick in.
He's not going to now.
No, but he could hypothetically.
He could.
And you see the name Raheem Morris as a candidate getting interviewed. I can't imagine for the life of me a team hiring Raheem Morris as their head coach this season at least. That would be ludicrous. He's had 2 head coaching jobs at Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Wasn't successful in either. But that would be a case with the Rooney Rule. Mike McDaniels is still intriguing. There's a chance that Mike McDaniels could go to the Browns. He hasn't been a failure. Listen, on balance, Mike McDaniels hasn't been a disaster as a head coach. He really hasn't.
I don't disagree, but one thing. Raheem Morris is a great example. Your second job, you better get it right. You better pick right. Don't just take any job because you're not going to get another shot. Raheem Morris is never getting another shot as a head coach.
Yeah, but sometimes you reset because you want bigger things.
Well,
look at Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy was supposed to be one of the hottest head coaching candidates. So he leaves the comfort of the Kansas City Chiefs as the offensive coordinator, and we knew Andy Reid called the plays, but still, Bieniemy was a hot candidate, and he goes to Washington to reset. It doesn't work out, and now he's the running back coach for the Bears, and his name's not. He doesn't even get an interview.
This is different.
Get an interview now.
Mike McDaniel's got a resume. And if he takes a job now, just to take a job. If he takes a Browns job or Titans job and it goes really south, he's never getting another shot. If he goes and becomes an offensive coordinator, really debilitates his reputation there, he might have a pick of a job later on, like Ben Johnson did, let's say.
Ben Johnson, that was his first job. He waited, he chose.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson and he got into the right situation. Cleveland doesn't seem to be the right situation, but if you're going to be a coordinator, you better go to the right place. His job, Mike McDaniels, has been linked to Detroit, because he's worked with Dan Campbell before in Washington. And they have the weapons in Detroit. He could certainly be successful as an offensive coordinator. But what happens if the Bears have a so-so year? You move further away from getting a head coaching job rather than reset. And let's be honest about it, Keith. You can't count on getting these prime, wonderful coaching jobs, Like Stephen A. Smith would say when he'd bring up the racial angle, he'd say black coaches never get jobs in the NBA with the really good teams. Well, guess what, Stephen? The really good teams usually don't need a head coach unless you're the Knicks and look at Mike Brown. So that beats up his argument going to the Knicks. But most teams that hire coaches, are hiring them because the team was not successful or the team failed to live up to its potential. You grab a job and the Raven job out there is a good job because the Ravens are ready to win now. Tennessee, I'm not sure they're ready to win. Cleveland, I'm not sure they're ready to win. The Raiders, I'm not sure they're ready to win. The Falcons are ready to win.
They're not.
The Ravens and the Falcons.
They're the best jobs.
You can't pick and choose. These head coaching jobs are like gold. Unless you're John Harper or you're Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin can wait for the right situation. He can wait. But most of these other guys can't.
You mentioned McDaniel getting a job. If I had my choice, but I'll ask you too, my job came down to Mike McDaniel and Kevin Stefanski. I'm taking Kevin Stefanski in a heartbeat. He's more successful. He nearly got to an AFC championship game 2 years ago. I don't know that Mike McDaniel's won a playoff game. I think Stefanski did it under tougher conditions in Cleveland. I like Stefanski a lot, quite frankly. If I was a Jet,
I want to tell you, I don't know. You're looking at Stefanski's resume, a 2-time coach of the year, and you're comparing it to McDaniel's. Okay, it's different. Mike McDaniel's is a player's coach. The Dolphins never quit on him during the year. When they were 1-6, and they wound up going 6-4 the rest of the year. And if we forget the last game that they lost bad to the Patriots, they hit a patch after they were 1-6 that they were 6-3.
Yeah.
And he had the guts to, bench Tua finally and just move on from him. And how can you put down Mike McDaniels after they upset the Buffalo Bills? He rode by where the Bill fans want to have some fun with him and then take off. You kind of love that. The players seem to like Mike McDaniels. That's very important, okay? Very important, a player's coach. Very important, because that means they're going to play hard. That's what bothered me with the Jets this year. Aaron Glenn gives the image of a player's coach, but the Jets just seemed to quit.
Yeah.
As the year went by, they were like awful, non-competitive. You want teams to play hard, and Mike McDaniel's teams have always played hard. And they were 7-10 last year, the Dolphins. Were they expected to be better than that? They weren't expected to be better than that.
JB's got a good question about the Dolphins. They've hired a string of first-time head coaches, and it's been with middling.
Brian Flores was successful as the Miami coach, all in all.
I would say
all in all, he was. All in all.
He was about 500 is what he was. But they never made the playoffs. But he
handled the Tua situation dreadfully, and Brian Flores has issues as far as firing coordinators. Unfortunately, he comes with baggage, but he's a darn good coach.
He got fired for one reason in Miami, because the owner wanted to lose games, tank games, and he said, I'm not doing it.
But no evidence came out on that, Keith.
That's why he got fired.
The NFL investigated, but no evidence. You don't know.
Well, where are you going to find evidence? He said, she said. So.
Yes, so you don't go. Listen, it's obvious when you want teams to lose games, okay? But the players play to win. They're not told to tank games. I mean, that would be criminal. Look, the last game. Jets played at the end of the season. They won line for, to go number 2 overall in the draft, which they're going to get. Jet fans weren't rooting for them to win the game. We were like lukewarm. If you win the game, okay, you did what you're technically supposed to do. We can't get mad at you, but we can't be too happy about it either. Let's be honest about it.
Bad fans. They're bad fans. You root to lose, you're a bad fan. I'm sorry. I don't care about draft picks. Draft picks are a dime a dozen.
Well, it depends. If you're talking about the NBA and you have a difference between a generational talent like a Victor Wembanyama coming out as opposed to, a Brandon Miller who went to Charlotte. I mean, you want Wembanyama. You don't want to win a last game. So you wind up with Brandon Miller instead, who's a good player, by the way, from Alabama, very good player.
Agreed. I don't think Kurt Signetti is not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. Why would he want to, Danny?
No.
Why would Signetti want to go anywhere?
No, he's got to be
rated Indiana. He could be a legend there. The only reason you'd want to go anywhere, if you're in a successful situation like Signetti or Marcus Freeman, who said he's staying at Notre Dame, they sweeten his contract, is if you want to live in a different city, your family wants to live in a different city. If you have a chance, hypothetically, to go to Miami and live there instead of Indiana, maybe family considerations would come into it because it's appealing to live in Miami
Maybe.
going forward. And and they spend so much time away, these coaches, from their wife and kids, that at the very least they want to leave them in a good environment while they're at work. Indiana is a great environment, by the way, great environment. I'm talking about the weather in large part. That's what I'm talking about.
There's
The weather,
resources there.
not the city, which city's better than the other city, but the weather. Listen, let's be honest. The weather in Miami's better than Indiana.
I would say.
I mean, if anyone wants to get mad at me about that, so be it.
Listen, if there's a college coach to look at, and he's not going to do it this year, it's going to be Marcus Freeman. And interesting enough, the two jobs he really was interested in were the Steelers and the Ravens, but he's not coming this year.
Let me tell you, I have doubts how good an NFL head coach Marcus Freeman would be. There's a big, big difference when you're a young guy and you're dealing with men suddenly.
Yeah, well,
the college kids.
We've seen that with a lot of
Brian Flores, I think, would be a really good fit with the Steelers. I believe so.
I believe so too. Mike McCarthy, do you see him getting one of these jobs?
I don't. Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl. When you win a Super Bowl, it gives you a gold card for the rest of your coaching career. I get all that. I was never excited about Mike McCarthy as a coach. Never excited, but I got to give the guy credit. He did have a couple of good seasons at Dallas, even though they flopped in the playoffs.
3 or 4 straight years with 12 wins. That nobody was doing.
12-5, 12-5, 12-5, and then but then he had that. What was he? 7-10 or so follow-up year. His last year with the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy is it's an okay hire. He has a resume, but wouldn't you rather have a young guy like Chris Shula, defensive coordinator like that?
I guess it depends on my team. If I'm the Steelers, I want to, because that's been my track record. That's what I've done. I've had 3 coaches in nearly 60 years, and they all had the same resume, if you will, right? Young, defensive-minded coaches. That's who they've hired the last 3 times. It's worked pretty well for 6 decades.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy, if I had to give him a job, the best job would be the Raven job, I would guess. An established team, a team that I think's ready to win, could use a veteran presence there. He dealt with Aaron Rodgers, QB for years. But Mike McCarthy, Kevin Stefanski, Kevin Stefanski, you get the feeling he might not have been allowed to coach the way he wanted to last year. He seemed to be very unhappy last year.
I would have to agree. It's going to be interesting because I think over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see probably most, if not all, of these jobs fill up before.
Let's not forget, kudos to Mike Tomlin. The Steelers won their division. They had double-digit victories.
Yeah.
They didn't back in. They beat the Baltimore Ravens the last game of the season to win the division. A good Raven team. Mike Tomlin had a successful season this season.
He did.
He goes out on a high note, winning the division. Aaron Rodgers, I assume, retires. He goes out, he does go out on a high note in reality. Comeback, double-digit victories. At his age, he wasn't going to be the old Aaron Rodgers. At times, he was going to be an old Aaron Rodgers. But the last game, unfortunately, not only losing the way they lost to Houston, leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
I think we've seen the last of Mike Tomlin. This feels to me like a Bill Cowher thing. He's going to go to TV for a year. He's going to get away from the pressure. He's going to, if he likes TV, like Cowher has, you're going to hear his name come up year after year for a while. Cowher came up every year, and he just never, ever came back. And I think Tomlin kind of fits that mold very well. I could be wrong, but I just have that gut feeling we don't see.
You kind of wonder Tomlin stepping down. He wasn't going to get fired. The Steelers were not going to fire him this year, but the organization was feeling pressure. I mean, maybe something's going to come out we didn't know about, okay? Because you get the feeling the Steelers didn't try to talk him into staying either. Because I think it was the fan base. The pressure wears on you. I saw it happen with Don Shula. Don Shula, even though he wasn't going to the Super Bowl for years and years at the end of his career, he would turn out winning teams. And his last year, they were 9-7, and they got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. But the pressure of not going to the Super Bowl was starting to get to him, and the fan base was starting to become extremely restless. We even saw that with Belichick before he had a second act and started winning Super Bowls again. They were getting restless. There was a number of years the Patriots weren't going to the Super Bowl. Fans are so darn spoiled. It's ridiculous. The fans are ridiculous. Let me make that clear.
I'm spoiled.
Fans are ridiculous. You're one of them, Keith.
I'm
when it comes to the Yankees, you know, I mean, come on. I mean, do the math in your head. Do the math in your head. There are 32 teams in the NFL. They all have the same mission statement to win the Super Bowl. That's everyone's goal. That's what everyone's trying to do. The chances on average of winning a Super Bowl are doing it once every 32 years because there are 32 teams.
That makes what Bill Belichick did all the more remarkable, by the way.
Exactly. He built a 2-decade dynasty. And Andy Reid did something similar, you know, at least a 1-decade dynasty with the Chiefs.
Yeah. And Paul, Josh McDaniels never get another shot. He's one of those guys. He's had his chance. He's a great coordinator. Never get another shot.
He had his chance at Denver. It didn't quite work out. He had his chance to coach the Indianapolis Colts. He left them at the altar and bailed out of them after
as much as anything.
And then with the Raiders, it didn't work out. It worked out really poorly. So,
we all thought, as Patriot fans, we all thought when he reneged on Indianapolis that he got promised the job when Bill left, and thank God that didn't happen. Jesus.
But listen, Mike Vrabel obviously has a great relationship with him. He brought him back in. Josh McDaniels deserves, his credit for the Patriot turnaround.
He's great at what he does. And that's offensive coordinator, and he's a quarterback whisperer. He won 11 games with now I'm forgetting his name. When Brady was out.
Matt Castle.
Thank you. Matt Castle. That's pretty good. Anyway, let's move on to the games this weekend as we head into the divisional round. 2 games tomorrow, 2 games Saturday. Tomorrow the Bills and Broncos play at 4:30, I guess, out in Denver. Bills find a way to win that game in Jacksonville. Josh Allen just wheels them to victory.
I want to pick Buffalo. I really do. And I just can't quite do it because I think there's something to the bye. And I think Denver has put more emphasis on getting the bye than any other team, more than even New England this year. I think that Denver's peaked for this game. I think Josh Allen is hurting. I mean, and I don't want to say he's carrying the Bill defense. I trust the Bronco defense more than I do the Bill defense. I mean, the X factor is Bo Nix. Bo Nix has been so-so this year. And he might be asked to go out and do a lot, and he might not be able to do it, Bo Nix.
Agreed.
He might not be good enough. I mean, and can Josh Allen carry the team again? Can they run the ball with James Cook to take a lot of pressure off him? I think we're talking about a close game. And sentimentally, for those of us who don't have a rooting interest, and if you didn't care, if New England wasn't in the equation, if they weren't in the playoffs, I venture guess you would kind of be rooting for Josh Allen to win a Super Bowl because he's inspiring. Because that's, in a way I am. In a way we would. Let's put it that way.
Rooting might be too strong.
I think it's a close game. Denver's defense, much more solid than Buffalo's. And Denver wins a close game.
I think it's closer than people might think. Bo Nix, I think, is the X factor because he can be really good, or he can throw some bad picks. I think the two best players on the field are on the Bills. I think Allen and Cook are the best two players, although Patrick Surtain will come up big in this game, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's health is going to be – is there a tougher guy in the NFL? Do you see some of the shots he took last week? I thought he broke his neck on the one play, for crying out loud, and he just comes right back in the game. The guy takes such a beating, but still comes back and finds a way to win. Now, he hurts himself sometimes too, but one of the reasons he's so gunslingerish like that is because he knows he can overcome those mistakes. And I'm on Josh Allen until he loses, and that's going to be against the Patriots. But,
and the part about it too, the Buffalo Bills might not be as good a team as they've been the last few years when they lose to Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Those Buffalo Bills teams would beat Denver in Denver. I don't think this Buffalo Bills team is quite that good. Has their window closed? Put it this way, their window isn't as wide open this year as it's been the last few years.
Well, let me ask you this. Is this Denver team as good as those Chiefs teams that kept the Bills out of the Super Bowl?
No,
they're not.
No,
that's why the Bills can win this game. I think the Bills find a way to win a close game. Partly because I don't want to go to Denver. Partly because I don't want to go to Denver. The second
I don't think that's going to be a problem for you going to Denver. I don't think that'll.
Oh, you already foreshadowed one of your picks here, apparently. 49ers play the Seahawks on Saturday night. Listen, Kyle Shanahan has done a tremendous job. We've got a lot of Coach of the Year candidates. Nobody's done a better job than Kyle Shanahan with the deck of cards he had to deal with here this year. Great win last week against the Eagles, but with George Kittle now down and the beating I saw them take just 2 weeks ago in Seattle, I don't know how it's going to be a different outcome than that.
I thought the Eagles would win easy over the
I did too.
Easy over the 49ers.
Did too.
I mean, man, oh man, I even predicted 37-16, but it's easy to put down the Eagle offense as being dysfunctional, but the 49ers had a lot to do with it. What impressed me was the 49ers, after losing to Seattle the week before, the enthusiasm they showed going to Philadelphia. And they beat Seattle early in the year. They're 1-1 with Seattle this year. And we remember the game to decide who was going to get the bye with Seattle. They won decisively. They had the answers for Robert Saleh's defense. I know Kittle's down. I know the injury factor with the Niners. I think the Niners are coming up with a strong game. I can't pick against Seattle. I can't.
No.
But I think this is going to be another close game.
I don't think they beat them.
Game.
Yeah, I don't think they beat them out of the building. But that Seattle defense, there's a lot of good defenses in this playoff.
Yeah, but Brock Purdy is highly underrated. Really highly underrated. We talk about the top quarterbacks in the NFL. His name never comes up. Believe me, the Brock Purdy who took the 49ers to the Super Bowl, he was one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Where's he going to go the ball? Where's he going to go the
ball? You mentioned Shanahan. They get creative. They do things. The Niner defense, I think, comes up with a big effort. But when all is said and done, it's hard to see Seattle losing in Seattle.
I agree. Yeah, the Sam Darnold injury, which we just found about yesterday,
that could be a factor.
It could be a factor. And
who's that backup? Is it Howell?
I think it's Sam Howell. Yeah,
Sam Howell has experience going back from his days at the Commanders and elsewhere.
Not great experience, but
no. But he might. Yeah, if he had to fill in, he might be able to get the job done.
Here's the thing: I've tried, and I know Darnold's has his detractors in big games. If he comes up and plays badly, please don't tell me about his oblique injury. I don't want to hear about it. If you're playing, you can't use injury as an excuse. So I think Seattle wins, but closer than you think. By the way, that creativity, you talk about Shanahan and the way they design plays and get people moving, run that wide receiver pass. That's why they beat the Eagles. The Eagles have none of that. The Eagles just line up 4 wide and Barkley to backfield, and they just run routes. No creativity, no anything. You look at all those games last week and the game-winning drives, all of those teams had some creativity.
Mike McDaniels, the offensive coordinator of the Eagles.
Yeah, he'd be a great one there, but he's not going. I hope. We hope. Sam Howell's with the Eagles. Who was the backup?
Oh, he plays for the Eagles. Wait, that was the backup. He was with Seattle. Okay.
Who's
Thanks, Brian, for letting us know.
Thank you, Brian. We should know this. Let's find out quickly who that backup is because it could come into play.
Wait. No, the kid drafted Milrow from Alabama.
Yeah, I think Drew Lock's the backup, though. Drew Lock went back.
Drew Lock.
He went back.
Still around.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Spider Rico, in the Rocky movie when the bartender's a Spider Rico. Is he still around?
I heard that Harbaugh said if
Drew Lock is the backup there at Seattle.
He is. He's listed second on the depth chart.
What about Milrow's third string?
He's third, yeah.
Wow.
You'll see. That's ESPN. They aren't always that accurate, but
I don't think Milrow's a starting caliber quarterback.
Brian says Brian as well.
Brian. Drew Lock's a competent backup.
Now, I did hear that Harbaugh would not take the Giant job unless they brought Drew Lock back. So it's possible he'll be a Giant again next year. That was part of his demands. He said sarcastically. Let's move on to Sunday. And the varsity games will be played on Sunday.
Well, we'll talk about that, I think, Sunday morning on the show.
We'll talk about it quickly with you and I, because I know
there's a little baseball news. Yeah,
we'll make time for Kyle Tucker. I promise you. Quickly, Texans and Patriots. I'm scared to death of that pass rush because Drake May got beat up last week against the Chargers. Found a way to win. But I don't think the Texans offense has anything to get excited about. There is no running back like the Ravens of 2001.
Nico Collins is out too.
Yeah.
Primary receivers out Stroud, but Stroud is not going to play as poorly as he did, last week. He's just not.
Patriots defense
is really they still beat the Steelers, but he fumbled 5 times. 3 of them got recovered, and he was out of sorts. He's going to be a much better C.J. Stroud, for this game against the Patriots. And Drake May, I'm going to tell you, he's had a MVP caliber type season, but I have a feeling it's going to end for him the way it ended for Sam Darnold with the Vikings.
Well,
Sam Darnold had an MVP caliber season, and then the last couple of games, the wheels fell off. Is Drake May better than Sam Darnold? Absolutely.
Thank
He's
you.
a better quarterback, but I don't think if the Charger defense gave him the trouble they did, the Texan defense is taking it up a notch right now.
That's my one fear is Drake May getting even maybe knocked out of this game because he got beat up last week. But I'll give you this, though. Here's the thing. And again, as I say this, I am not comparing Drake May to Tom Brady. But I've said a lot. One of the things about Brady, and quarterbacks like Brady, is they can play badly for 3 quarters of the game and just beat you in the 4th quarter. Drake May is sure that he can do that same kind of thing. He's had some slow starts this year. He didn't play well for nearly 3 quarters of that game last Sunday night and found a way to have a really good 4th quarter and get it done. And that's all that matters is the W. And I think Drake May is really, you see him growing up before our eyes. And I think there's going to be enough there. I think I see the same kind of game. 16-6, call it what you want. It's going to be ugly Sunday afternoon.
That's what bothers me with fans. They don't understand narratives. I mean, they just look at a result, and they don't see how a team gets to a result, and then they say, nothing matters, it's only the result. It does matter how you get to a result because circumstances help someone get there. In a case in point, when the 49ers played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was terrible most of the game, but in the 4th quarter, midway, he came alive. But the 49ers were winning, not the last time they played in the Super Bowl, the time before when Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback. The Niners had a 20-10 lead, He overthrew a receiver on third down. If he connects with that pass, the Niners win the game. And you know what the narrative would have been? The Patriots should have gotten rid of Tom Brady and kept Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a Super Bowl champion.
That
would have been the narrative after the game.
If I had my narrative,
was made by the Patriots. They should have listened to Belichick and gotten rid of Brady. But what happens? Garoppolo overthrows the receiver. For Chiefs win. Following year, whatever. The Patriot, Brady goes to Tampa Bay, wins the Super Bowl, and everyone's condemning the Patriots. Blah blah blah.
Right. And look, I know that Drake May can't play as badly for 3 quarters against the Texans, but this Texans offense is nothing to get excited about. If he played badly, he's not going to be behind 30-6. This defense of the Texans scored 2 touchdowns. If they scored 2 touchdowns on defense,
yeah, it was a close game actually. Steelers and Texans were close most of the way. You look at the final score and you think it wasn't, but they couldn't generate any type of offense. The Steelers at all.
I do understand how good this defense is. I've told you, I'm scared to death of this defense. I think they can find a way to win, and it's going to be ugly. It's not going to be a pretty football game. If you like to watch, Madden and teams go up and down the field, don't watch this game because you're not going to like it. But it's going to be old school football, and I'm excited. I'm scared at the same time.
Old school football is going to favor the Texans. A wide open game.
I don't think so. Well, yes, but listen, the Patriots have shown they can play that ugly type of old school football. I like their chances. That running game, who's got a better running game? We got a 2-headed monster that's playing great. Ramondre Stevenson has played as good as anybody in the league since he came back. Well, maybe that's a little much. If he was getting all those touches, he would be. But since he came back from injury, and you got Henderson for speed. The wide receivers have gotten better as the season's gone on, along with the quarterback. And the defense has stepped it up since Williams got back. I'm just saying, don't write this team off. Anyway, Rams at the Bears on Sunday night. Quickly, the Bears are playing really good football. They're never out of a game. They can't fall 20 points behind here to this Rams team. But I think they're a live underdog at home.
Oh, no. The Bears in with a good chance. I mean, you can't dismiss their chances. It's going to be cold, a night game. Would you trust more, Matthew Stafford or Caleb Williams? And who do you trust more, the Ram defense or the Bear defense? I mean, who has a bigger playmaker, to go to? I mean, Bears are consistent. It's should be a good game, highly competitive. I think you're talking about these playoffs. You're getting close games, really good games. I think by the time the Super Bowl is over, we're going to look back at these playoffs and say, "Wow, all these games were for the most part great." Even though the Steelers-Texan game, we'll give that one a pass.
We've seen a lot of great football for sure.
Yeah.
And if it comes down to the quarterbacks, you're obviously going to trust Stafford in a big spot more than Caleb Williams, but he's also been growing up a lot these last couple of months. So don't count this team out. And don't underestimate the fact when a team comes back and wins games like they did last week, and they've done a couple of times, that adds a layer of confidence. When you fall behind, you don't panic.
Yeah, well, that's the talk after the game. But you keep falling behind like that, it does catch up here. That's a great stat I wasn't aware of, Frank.
Frank comes up
1-9 in games under 40 degrees. They're coming from Los Angeles, where the weather's going to be pleasant, much in comparison to Chicago, especially it's going to be freezing at night. Yeah, it's a factor you can't disregard.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. We'll recap all of this for you guys. Well, we'll talk some more about this on the Big Football Show on Sunday for sure. And we'll recap all these games on Monday and also talk about Miami, Indiana, which we haven't had a chance to talk about here, but we'll talk about that Monday morning as that championship game is coming up. We did talk about Kurt Cignetti a little bit. Going to be exciting, and we'll dive into that. But we got some in the time that we have left, and we'll go a little bit over. Big news in Major League Baseball and a domino that will probably allow Bellinger and a few other guys to make their decisions here. Kyle Tucker finally signs not shocked with the team. I'm really shocked with the contract. $240 million over 4 years, $60 million a year for Kyle Tucker.
And he has an opt-out after the second and third season.
He's not
on top
I'll
of it.
tell you that.
I'm going to tell you, if the Dodgers want to pay this money, it's fine. I have no beef with it. I'm not going to be hypocritical. Going back to the days when George Steinbrenner would sign the free agents,
Yeah.
I defended what Steinbrenner did. It's a big market team, and the small market teams can get creative. They can make signings as well. And last season, the Milwaukee Brewers had a better regular season record than the Dodgers. The Toronto Blue Jays came within a couple of inches of beating the Dodgers in the World Series. They should have. What happens if the Dodgers didn't win the World Series? They lost to the Blue Jays, which they easily could have done last year. We wouldn't be talking the same way. We wouldn't be complaining about the signing. They want to pay that money. Let them pay it. You win one championship, it makes it worth it. Don't get me wrong. It does make it worth it. But eventually, these contracts could really come back, to hurt. They really could, at some point. And listen, and the Dodgers owner, he has money from outside sources. The extra revenue he's getting having Ohtani helps him. You got an owner like Steve Cohen with the Mets. If he wanted to lose a couple of billion of his own money in the luxury tax, he could. But you have to have a little common sense. $60 million a year for Kyle Tucker. $30 million is deferred. So the present value is more like $57 million. Okay, if they want to do that, I know as a Yankee fan, I don't want the Yankees to pay that type of money for Kyle Tucker. I don't want them to.
I would not have paid that money for Kyle Tucker.
No.
He's a good player. He's a really good player. But
really
not
good.
$60 million.
Really good.
Not $60 million for me.
He's not a superstar. He's somewhere between a very good player and a super player. Somewhere in the middle, I guess you could put him. But he's not Mike Trout. Maybe for Mike Trout in his prime, a young Mike Trout, I'd pay the crazy money for, but that's about it.
And I'm with you. If teams have money, I'm not a big, George Steinbrenner talked about revenue sharing, and he was like, if I wanted to buy the Kansas City Royals, I'd bought the Kansas City Royals. I bought the New York Yankees. And I should be able to act like I did and spend like I did. And he did. And the Dodgers are doing the same thing. My big problem with the Dodgers and what they're doing is all this deferred money is bypassing this year's salary cap and taxes on it. And it's going to cause a lot of problems in the labor strife that we have in MLB. And there's going to be a work stoppage probably this spring. You're going to see them locked out. And
I remember my friend Max Kellerman said the teams with the bigger fan bases should be allowed to spend more.
I agree.
You got more fans. You gave an example. The Yankees have a lot more fans than the Kansas City Royals. Why should they be inhibited and not be able to spend more? You got more fans. They should be allowed. And no one is stopping small market teams can make creative moves. The Baltimore Orioles is a small market. They signed Pete Alonso.
Why don't they defer? Why aren't these guys signing these or getting these guys in with these contracts and deferring the money? They should be doing it.
Well, and you look at the case of Cody Bellinger. I'm not for giving Bellinger a crazy contract. He's a heck of a good player. But you give Bellinger a 7-year deal, that's insane. A few years from now, how is that going to look?
I'd give him 7 years and give myself an opt-out after 4.
Well, no, you can't do that. I mean,
I could, but he won't.
Don't have opt-outs.
He won't take it.
You don't wind up signing him if push comes to shove.
I think Cody Bellinger is the second happiest guy on the planet today after Kyle Tucker because his price tag just went up.
No, not necessarily because the Dodgers were supposed to be in the mix to bring him back, and they're out of it now. So
you still got the Yankees, you still got the Mets, you still got the Cubs. You got teams with money.
Yeah,
and they'll be fighting for him. His price tag went up a bit. You got at least
if it did, let him pay it. The Yankees offered reportedly the same deal as the Orioles had with Alonso, $31 million a year for 5 years. Do you mean to tell me if Bellinger isn't going to sign for that amount? Now, let's call it 30 million. The 150 million for 5 years, the Yankees should go over that amount?
Oh, no.
What's he going to be 6 years from now?
I don't think so.
You pay for what the values you think is going to be approximately.
Well, there's different circumstances for different players. When Aaron Judge was a free agent, I said you give him whatever it takes to get him here because he's the franchise. He's a face of the franchise. That's a whole different ball game than Cody.
Yeah, that's different. That's different.
Yeah, and I want Bellinger back, but I can't just break the bank to get it.
No, you're not playing with monopoly money. That's why I don't like talking to fans about contracts. They keep saying, but you have to sign him. You have to sign him. You can't not sign him. You're not playing with monopoly money.
No, I know.
And for these fans, it's monopoly. Fans are in la-la land. In absolute la-la land. And then if a free agent...
Yeah, but you're thinking about your money,
listen, if he's going to get $40 million more for signing with another team, they're going to get mad. They're going to say he's greedy. Of course he's greedy. You mean to tell me you wouldn't do the same thing? And if you wouldn't do the same thing, you're a darn fool. Okay? Johnny Damon would never come back to the Red Sox because the fans booed him when he left to go to the Yankees because the Red Sox offered him 4 years, $40 million total. The Yankees offered him 4 years, $52 million total. That was big money at the time. It still is, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
big money at the time. And Johnny Damon said, the extra $12 million, I was able to buy my house and pay it off free and clear. And the Red Sox fans would boo Damon when he came back after all he did for them. And Damon didn't want to know from the Red Sox later on. When they tried to get Damon back at the end of his career to have a reunion for old time's sake, Damon wouldn't waive his no-trade clause to go to the Red Sox. That's how hurt he was by their conduct to fans.
You know, speaking of the money and going back to Kyle Tucker, who are the Dodgers bidding against? Because the second highest bid I saw was the Mets at $40 million a year. I think they came in, if I'm not mistaken, $200 million over 5 years. That's what I.
Yeah, well, the Mets were looking for sure to average like $50 million a year. That they were going to try to work something out. Maybe they were going to do 4 years, $50 million a year. I don't know.
I thought what I saw was 5
maybe
years.
Tucker didn't want to play in New York as well. Would have preferred playing in LA. And let's be honest, LA looks to be a better situation when you look at their talent. You know, with the Tucker signing, LA, they're not a lock to win the World Series. This is baseball. And consider this, Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, chances are they're going to start declining sooner rather than later. We've seen that with Betts. His performances have declined. Yeah. Freeman's has gently declined as well. People don't fully realize that.
A little bit.
But it's going to get to a point where it declines more than a little bit. Betts and Freeman together. And we don't know for sure whether Edwin Diaz is going to be lights out as a closer. They signed him, 3 years? He might have a great year, Edwin Diaz. We don't know.
Relievers are.
Yeah, but they're loaded. Let's be honest. The Dodgers are loaded.
Sure.
They're definitely the clear favorites once again to win the World Series. If they get screwballed, the Dodgers, let's just think of who's going to win the World Series the year after this one.
You know, I just heard Dennis Green in my head. You want to crown him? Crown him. I don't
think
you
guys sign him. I mean,
the Tigers are not a huge market, right? Detroit's a big city, but we wouldn't consider it one of the bigger markets, and they don't spend the way other teams spend.
Yankees and Mets can make a bold move, but you're going to have to empty your farm system, give the best prospects, and sign Screwball to a long-term deal that's going to make him the highest paid pitcher in baseball history. Is it worth it? It might be. You have to anticipate what Screwball's going to be the next few years at least.
The problem is he's going to be looking at an 8 or 9 year contract as well. And what am I getting at the end, right? So you got to factor.
Well, they signed Max Fried to an 8-year contract, but the money wasn't insane.
Yeah.
You know, and he certainly, his first year certainly gave the Yankees great value.
And the team signed these guys knowing they're going to get a, depreciated return at the end of these contracts. If they sign them for 8 years, it's, $50 million. They know they're not getting a $50 million.
It depends. If you sign a guy to the age of up to 38, you might get the value. But if you do what the Mets did with Soto, sign him to age 41, you really think he's going to be a regular position player by the time that contract's running out.
Probably not. And
Tigers,
I agree with Brian here.
In arbitration now. We're waiting for settlement.
Isn't this aren't they like $18, $20 million apart?
I don't know, but Skubal, it doesn't make sense because he's a free agent next year. Tigers are going to have to make a decision with Skubal one way or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, the best time to trade him would be in the off season. Could you imagine they trade him to the Dodgers? And the Dodgers say, screw the luxury tax and just give whatever. I don't know what the Dodgers would have to give. They'd have Tosca Hernandez, an outfielder, but I don't know how good their farm is, what they could give to the Tigers, but that would be crazy, I mean, listen, you know what? If that were the case, Cooper went to the Dodgers, I would just say, let's fill it. Let the Dodgers represent the National League in the All-Star game. Just put the Dodgers on the field and let the American League come up with a team.
Well, I know Brian's a Tiger fan, and I will agree with him. The Tigers would have to find a way to keep Skubal in Detroit if they want to be.
I don't think it's happening unless Skubal wants to be in New York, and also they're not spreading goodwill with this arbitration thing with Skubal.
No.
There's not goodwill going. Arbitration never spreads goodwill because if you go to a hearing, you have to talk negatively about the player if you're the club.
Yep, you do. Got a lot of stuff to catch up on today, Jack. We went a little bit over. Any boxing coming up? We need
no real, boxing and no. Well, there's good fights that are going to be taking place next week. I jumped a week early on Glove Fist. I mentioned a couple of shows, Raymond Maratella, Andy Cruz. The big ones at the end of the month, January 31st. Teofimo Lopez against Shakur Stevenson. I mean, that's the big fight, at the end.
Good stuff. You can catch Jack tomorrow on the debate show and Monday night on Glove Fist. And I'll see you guys on Sunday, both on the Big Football Show and then on the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Jack, thanks. Have a great weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of great football right through Monday night. Enjoy it, guys. Jack, have a great weekend.